I want to say that in the last few months, I've been sleeping a whole lot better. And I want to give some insight as to why I've been sleeping a whole lot better. I think a lot of people, if they have problems sleeping, if they just change this one mindset, they'll be on their way to getting a good night's sleep. So I think the part of the reason I've been sleeping a whole lot better is that I've been putting a whole lot more priority into my sleep. And I think I know the reason why. Like a lot of other people, I've been doing a lot of my work over Zoom nowadays, or remote work. One thing I love about Zoom is that if I'm talking to my manager, if I'm talking to anybody really, and I get a tough question, right, from one of my coworkers or my manager, there's a lot less pressure to instantaneously come up with an answer, right? When you sit face to face with somebody at the office, especially if they're using body gestures, there's a lot of pressure that time is ticking away for you to answer the question. May not be true, but I'm very sensitive to pressure like that, and sometimes I answer very rashly. I talked about this in other videos. Sometimes, even as I'm saying it, I'm already regretting what I'm saying. It's happened before. It doesn't happen nearly as much on Zoom or over the phone, or especially over email, right? When somebody sends me an email, I can just sit on that, right? I could pretend I didn't see it and actually really think hard. I could even ask a friend that I trust, right, to help me look over it, right? Sometimes I can even, if it's an email, I can even Google the exact phrasing of the question, right? I'm not very good at picking up subtle cues. And sometimes if I just type in even copy and paste what my boss said into Google, very surprising things will come up, like maybe he means this, right? And sometimes that's pretty accurate. Anyways, getting back to the point, when I see something challenging at work now, it's not instantaneous. I can actually go to sleep on it. And sometimes in my sleep, I'll dream things that consciously I didn't think about in my waking life. I hate to discuss work examples here, but let me discuss a few examples of dreams that I've had in the past that have been very insightful. I was reading a paper about machine learning a couple years ago, and I had a hard time understanding it. In the paper, this artificial neural network was learning how to play Tetris by reinforcement learning. So it was playing millions and millions of rounds of Tetris, and by how it's doing, it learns what it's doing right, what it's doing wrong. I couldn't understand the paper. I went to sleep. And as I was sleeping, when I went to bed that night, I probably didn't want to sleep. I wanted to understand that paper, but I reluctantly went to sleep. I had a dream that I was on a spaceship on Jupiter, and we had a neural network for detecting life on Jupiter, and the alarm had sounded. And I went to look out the window of the spaceship, and I noticed that there was this cloud formation that looked like a face, and that's why the alarm had sounded. And the spaceship, on the computer screen, it showed me how the pixels activated the alarm, the chain of neurons along the neural network. And so I entered that it was a false alarm, and as I entered it, I saw how the parameters adjust. And when I woke up, it all made sense to me, and I programmed my first neural network for three-dimensional tic-tac-toe, if I remember correctly. Right now I'm working on a neural network for doing contact tracing. So had I not had that dream, I don't know if I would be competing at the Computer Olympia this year with my neural network on several games. Right? What games am I doing this year? A lot, but most prominently Backgammon, the three-dimensional Connect 4 that I was talking about, Clobber, Dots and Boxes, and of course Pandemic, right, which is a one-player game. The computer plays all sides of the players, so it's basically we're going to probably have the computer simulate hundreds of games and see who can win the most often, right? I did that kind of as a warm-up to my contact tracing AI, right? Very similar flavor, right? Okay, so sometimes when I sleep, it helps me digest things that I see in my everyday life that I wouldn't have thought of, right? My boss might have made some remarks for me that I took very harshly, and then I went to sleep and I actually brainstormed, how do I problem solve some of these things, right? I don't feel comfortable talking about the examples on here because I think some of my coworkers and my boss are going to be watching this. But it helps me digest what they are saying. Let's just put it that way. Okay. 10 years ago, I used to have a big fear of flying. I hadn't flown since, well, I flew once after 9/11. We got home and then Space Shuttle Columbia, and I didn't want to fly after that. And so I had gone almost 10 years without flying at this point, and my advisor was pretty upset because I was going to school in Rochester, New York, and one time I had a conference in Louisville, Kentucky, and I insisted on driving there, and it was a 12-hour drive each way, and when I got back I was exhausted. And my advisor was pretty upset, and also I had caused quite a bit of trouble. The car had broken down along the way. I was late getting back to the campus. But I really loved the trip. I love road trips. My advisor was upset though, and I still couldn't get over my fear of flying. Well, I got back from that conference in Kentucky, and later that year I was dating a girl and she had taken advantage of me, and I almost dropped out of school. And my parents were begging me to break up with this girl. Everybody around me wanted me to break up with her. Some of my better friends around me tried to sabotage my relationship with her. Now that I think about it, I didn't see it that way at the time, but they were very nice to me. The friends who were trying to sabotage the relationship. Finally, I go to sleep one night, and I dreamt that I had gone on vacation somewhere far from the United States. I couldn't speak the language of the place I was relaxing at. I was at a beach somewhere, and there were plenty of girls elsewhere where I was on vacation. And so when I woke up, I realized, oh my God, I gotta get over my fear of flying. So the following week, my advisor wanted me to submit a paper to a conference in Rome, and I submitted it. My advisor was pretty surprised. She thought I had a fear of flying. I said, yeah, I think it's time to get over it. It's been 10 years since 9/11. It had been 8 years since Columbia. I think it was time to get over it. And I got on the plane, and off I went to Rome a few months later. But I don't think there were any beaches or anything there in Rome. I still my best interpretation of where the dream was probably either Keelung in Taiwan or Gdansk Bay. I couldn't speak the language there. I speak Chinese, so I interpret it as Gdansk, which I love going on vacation. And a couple months ago, I was listening to a news podcast while going to sleep, and they had discussed why bats get COVID-19 and why they don't get sick from COVID-19. And the reason is that because they fly, it affects their immune systems in some way. And as I was listening to this, I had a dream. In the dream, myself and a bunch of other people had gone to this airstrip where they had this big fans blowing, and we were flapping our arms and flying. And after we had flown, a bunch of people took blood from us to use as a COVID-19 vaccine. Not necessarily the most useful dream in the world, but you get the idea that sleeping sometimes helps me digest my outside world. Right, it certainly helped me when I needed to get over my fear of flying and needed to break up with that girl. It helped me understand machine learning. It helped me navigate my workplace this past year. And not everybody's going to have the same feeling about dreaming, but I'm sure if you really think about it, sleep has some positive benefits to you, and you just put some priority to it, right? I'm sure you could be sleeping a whole lot better. Thanks for watching.